Okay, so I had a different train of thought this morning because it's not always realistic to get out Play-Doh and play, although it can be a lot of fun. I was trying to think, how can you do this without having to cut blocks up? How could you do this without having to pull the Play-Doh out? How could you do this without just using graph paper or drawing pictures or something like that? How can you do it just building with the blocks? Okay, so Erin's comment kind of sparked a thought in me, and I think this could be what she was saying, because I know this is what I had started out with, was this half by half square, and I noticed that in her comment again this morning. So instead of defining one as this little block here, and instead of defining one as this, because if this was one across, that would really only be an eighth up, because we want to have a 1 by 1 square here, and we don't want to have to reshape that, right, with Play-Doh. So let's take this and make it one across and one up. So now we have, this would be our 1. So we're defining that as 1, and it's a 1 square, just like this is a 1 square. So now, if we want to have a half by a half here, because we're saying let x equal 1/2 by 1/2, right? Then it would be this, because can you see how that's actually half across? And we want to go half across and half up, which means that we're going to have a quarter. So there's our half by half square. So we can put that there. And then so we've got our half by half square, and we've got our 1. See, half by half right here. And then our 1 right here. And what we still have to put in here is half across and 1 up. Well, isn't that half across? And if we fill it in, it's 1 up. So there's our half across, 1 up. I'm just going to separate these just a little because the colors are the same. And then this one here is 1 across and half up. So here's our 1 by 1 square. Here's our 1 by a half. Here's our half by 1. And here is our half by half. Well, now it's really easy to count because we have 1 full one, we have 2 halves, and we've got a quarter. Well, 1, 1 1/2, 2, 2 1/4. So you can definitely do this without Play-Doh. Although I find Play-Doh quite fun, and I had a lot of fun last night, I think this would be easier to do. If you were dealing with thirds, maybe you would, I believe this would be, maybe you would make your 1 out of a square of that, like 9 of these would be your 1. You could do quarters with this, you could do thirds with that, you could do halves with this. I'm trying to think. Possibly you could do 6 with, you could do 5ths probably with that, I think, if you made a 1 by 1 square out of 10 of those. You could do, I think, halves with that. And then for 6, you could use, let's see, I'm trying to think which blocks are which. I still haven't memorized the colors. I think it's the dark green. I think you could do a square by 1 by 1 square like that out of that, and that you could do 6, I think, in thirds and halves. So think about how you could do fractional ones like this, but just redefining what your 1 by 1 square is. I think that will make it really easy to do this. And you could do this with the Mortenson math blocks, and you could do this with the Cuisenaire rods without having to cut or use Play-Doh. So think about that. If any of you guys want to try this out, just get out your blocks and play, and I'll bet you anything you'll see some brilliant stuff with this. I'm just going to put this together now side by side so that you can see exactly what we have here. We've got our x square. So this is our x square. That's our half by 1. Did I do that right? Sorry, 1 by half. This is our half by 1. And we're not substituting out this one, we're just changing what that one looks like. These ones you substituted in these values, like 1/2. Here you're just showing one looking differently. So if you're talking about this with your kids, you definitely have to substitute in here, here, and here. Here you're just switching what your one looks like. It's not really true substitution. All right, I hope that makes a lot more sense. And I think it does to me. So give it a shot. Try out some different ones and tell me how it works. Okay, have a good morning.